Are we live? Looks like we're live. Hello, investigators. Welcome to Until the End of Time, and happy 2024 to you all. I'm doing a. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, sorry. My name is Veronica. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm jumping on the bandwagon, or maybe that's a little too I don't know, too dismissive. Basically, in case you're not familiar, I think every year the people over at Playing Board Games do a tier list. They do tier list rankings for all of their favorite or all their investigators based on like power level and how much fun they are, stuff like that. And I've been looking at that and thought it was pretty interesting, but I also figured that I don't know, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But then I saw that friend of the show, Hatful Bob, also actually did a tier list, and he actually did two tier lists. One based on perceived power, power level basically, and one on personal preference. And I thought that was such an interesting way to split those two because I think in Arkham it's easy to go, well, these are the most powerful cards, these are the most, overpowered stuff, this is how you break the game. But a lot of us, at least I personally, don't play that way, right? I don't play with all the overpowered stuff. My goal isn't to invalidate the game. My goal is to engage with the game and have fun with it. And in that sense, I think this second tier list is much more interesting to me, which is the more fun, which investigators are the fun ones. Also, literally yesterday, Parallel Monterey Jack came out, so he's not on the tier list. Sorry about that, but also I feel like I actually need like a little bit of time to think about him. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting that they jumped from the parallels. I'm gonna make sure to quickly share this all over the place because I don't think anybody's gonna show up if I don't talk about it. So talking about Arkham, yeah. So this is going to be a live stream. It's going to be just me chatting about what I think about the investigators. It's going to be based on the Playing Board Games format. If you haven't heard of them, go check it out. I think their tier list videos are pretty long, so I don't mind if you're like I'm not going to watch all that. Hi, Jason. Hey, you're first, definitely. So let's quickly go over the like rules, or at least make sure that we're all on the same page. So the list on the left is the power ranking. So this is which investigator is objectively the strongest, right? And I'm going to copy the playing board games format, which is specifically for a given purpose, for a given role, there can only be one investigator in S tier. So, for example, for the best monster killer, there can only be one S tier monster killer. There can only be one S tier. Hello, Hatful Bob. Hi, Bob. And hello, Pokemaster. So there can only be one S tier monster killer. There can only be one S tier clue getter. There can only be etc. etc. Like, you're not going to get five seekers in S tier because they're all very good at clue getting, because that's not how that works. Then there are A plus tier, A minus tier, which is just a little bit of delineation because, and I think this is like a sign that the game is actually really good, is most investigators end up somewhere in A tier because the designs are just really good and most investigators are just balanced around being, good and good at what they do, but they're not perfect. Then there's obviously B tier. B tier is fine. C tier is like, and then D tier is like actively, you could probably be doing better. And I don't know if I'll put anybody in NA tier. I know, NA tier is just like, I have no way of like judging this. I don't know, kind of thing. Actually, I will be putting one person in NA tier. I'm just going to do it right now. I haven't played with Ashken Pete's parallel yet, so I actually have no idea. And I think that's where NA tier goes. I'll be doing these in expansion order, and yeah. Oh, sorry. And the second list, the list on the right, is my personal preference. Right? Is how fun do I think the investigators to play? How much do I enjoy playing them? Stuff like that. There is one more list of caveats, which is this is going to be standard difficulty with an eye at hard, but not specifically expert. Multiplayer, at least two investigators. I am probably going to lean more towards two investigators than three and four, but in general, I'm not evaluating these investigators on purely their true solo, because that would change up the list quite a bit. If there's like enough demand for it, I might do a true solo list at some point, but I think that's just like a completely different beast. So Pokemaster asking, do we have the full cards for any of the new Gators yet? Yes, I believe we have everything about... No, we have Kate as well. We have everything for everybody, I believe. Because we have... Kate was in the original article and then previewed by playing board games, her deck building. I believe I have her in not the most recent video, but the video before that. Yeah, so we have everything. Alright, enough flirting with chat, time to get into the tier list. Starting off, I think, with a fantastic place to start, which is Roland Banks. I think Roland Banks is an excellent B-tier investigator. I don't think anybody is going to argue with me that Roland is not amazing at what he does, but he is perfectly serviceable. You're going to get free clues by his ability, which is pretty nice. His stat line could be a lot better for his Seeker Access, but still, Seeker Access deck building is still very good. And I think, as a general rule, Roland kind of like set the tone for me. It's like, as long as you can keep his sanity in control, you're probably going to do pretty well with Roland, but he's never going to like completely overpower things. And likewise, I think I'm also going to put Roland in B tier for the fun side of things. I think Roland's fine. I think Roland is... There's been some more fun Roland builds now that Seeker's gotten a little bit more weird stuff in like Scarlet Keys. They got the clue dropping stuff. That might be fun. In general, though, I think Guardian doesn't really lend itself to being very diverse in my experience. And with 3 intellect, his Seeker Splash always feels a little off. So yeah. I'm going to try to move through these because I know there's a couple that I have that I'm going to discuss a lot about. And one of those is coming up next. It's Daisy. Daisy's going S tier. So this is one that maybe motivated me the most to make this list, which is that I absolutely disagree with the rating that some people playing board games have put Daisy at. I think Daisy is up there as the best Seeker in the game. And the reason I say that... So... I'm just going to mention him right away because I know we're going to talk about him next. Which is Rex. So, I believe that at least most of the playing board games... I haven't watched all their videos, I should mention. I haven't seen all the tier lists they did. But a lot of them put Rex in S tier, and then they put Daisy in like A or A- tier, which is wild to me. Because Rex gives you 1 additional clue per turn, right? That's basically the logic. We're talking taboo list. Oh, I didn't mention it at the front. We are talking taboo list. Taboo list Rex, 1 extra clue. Daisy has an extra action every turn, and one of the things she can do with that extra action is get clues, because we have the Grim Memoir now, which just lets you investigate, and with her 5 intellect, probably succeed by 2, also draw you a card. Additionally, Daisy can do Old Book of Lore. You just get to draw an extra card from the top 3 for anyone on your team. If anybody's struggling with finding the piece they need, if you have Daisy in your team, that is no longer the case. Just drop down Old Book of Lore, they start looking through their deck, and they find what they need very quickly. Maybe you need mobility. There are movement tomes, which are mostly bad, but sure. There is, what is the other tome that's... Oh yeah, Encyclopedia. If you ever play a rogue with lots of extra actions, and you play Encyclopedia Daisy next to that, that is the most insane shit I've ever seen. Like, Daisy tomes in this game are really, really good, and I haven't even mentioned her off-class. Daisy has, what I would argue, is maybe the best... Well, no, okay, sorry. Seeker 0 to 5 is probably... It's very strong. I think Seeker 0 and 1 is like super powerful. Off-class wise, I think Min probably has her beat, and if we ever see Rogue, we might also, like Seeker 0 to 5, Rogue 0 to 2, we might be arguing whether or not that is better. But one of the things that I hear people say is like, oh, Daisy's so squishy. Daisy has Deny Existence and Ward of Protection. Daisy's not squishy. Daisy's perfectly fine. I don't quite understand what's going on there. She has access to Delve if you want to Delve. She has access to Ethereal Slip and Razor and Redesigns for that like event suite. I'll concede Daisy with Mystic Assets, not my favorite build anymore, but like Daisy is so good. Daisy is so good. I'm just gonna go. I might be bringing up Daisy a couple more times when we talk about the other Seekers. I think Daisy is S tier. I don't like... The fact is that she's probably not that much worse than Rex at getting clues. She's gonna get... obviously Rex is going to get just slightly more clues, but in return, you get so much support capability. She's fantastic. As you can probably hear, I think Daisy's super interesting. I'm gonna put her in A+ tier. I have another investigator in mind, I think, for the S tier for Seeker. But, I don't know how how hard I have to do. Yeah, we're gonna put Daisy in S tier. Shut up. Daisy's great. I like. There's never gonna be a point where I'm like, oh no, we shouldn't put Daisy in this team because Daisy's bad. No, Daisy's fantastic. Oh, Parallel Skids. How I love you. How you're not very good. Is that correct? No, it's D tier. Sorry, Skids. I love Skids. I think he's very fun. I think he's incredibly. He's getting better. That's what I will say. I think he's getting better. I think the cards, I think Edge of the Earth especially, gave him a lot of multi-class stuff. The fact is that like the Dunwich Splash Investigator, or the Dunwich, not Dunwich, Corset style of Investigators benefit a lot off of synergy, and they benefit a lot off of multi-class, because they tend to get a lot of different cards from different card pools. And I think Skids can take a lot from a lot of different places, and I just think Skids still just struggles with like an ability that's pretty mediocre, because just paying 2 resources so much, right? Like I know a full action is better than like a conditional action, but it's just it's too much, and his stat line is not good enough to compensate. So Jason is saying that Norman is his S tier. Oh, that's the right pronoun. Sorry, S tier Clover that you could argue to C Clover exactly. I'm going to probably put I don't know if I'm going to put Norman in S tier, but I'm definitely going to put Norman pretty high. But I don't really compare Norman with Rex or Norman with Daisy. Might be yeah. I don't know. We'll get to Norman when we get to Norman. We're gonna be there in like an hour, so that's fine. Okay, up next, Agnes. So Agnes used to be like an A+ investigator for me. I think she's dropping down to A tier for me. Again, okay, so maybe this is like the way I approach the game, and I look at these cards. For me, deck building is one of the is a thing that I really pay attention to, and I think 0 to 5, 0 to 2 deck building is incredibly potent. There is so much you can do with that, and there are so many problems that can solve, and I think Agnes is really, really. I'm gonna put her in A+. She doesn't deserve being like lower than that, right? Like. The best Agnes builds can absolutely destroy campaigns. You're going to be 7, 8 willpower. You're going to have Peter Sylvester for soak. You're just going to destroy enemies. You have Tesla damage. I think Agnes is just very strong. I'm going to put Agnes A- on this side. I haven't played her in a long time, actually. I should confess that. And I think part of the reason just is that, yeah, a lot of the Mystic decks start looking the same, and Agnes's ability isn't that like exciting or splashy. That being said, if I wanted to like play a solid Mystic deck, I think Agnes is just like a great place to start. And yeah, she doesn't. The thing is that she doesn't really have a gimmick, right? Like she wants to take a little bit of horror, but you just put like the couple of cards to do that, and then you just play very standard Mystic in her. But that's also very powerful. All right, speaking of powerful, Wendy. Wendy is also A+. Wendy is the queen of never dying. I think Wendy's the queen of encounter cards don't really hurt me. She has 4/4 in her defensive stats. She can probably go much higher on both of those with like a lot of survivor cards, and she can redraw tokens. I've not played with her enough recently to where, when I do pick her up again, it's like, oh right, this ability is just completely broken, and it's fantastic. Winging it makes Wendy very happy, because her 3 intellect means that you can just get clues lots of times. We've already seen a couple of preview cards that I think will also be nice. It's not Providence. What's the other one? Persistence? I think it's Persistence. The skill cards. So David saying Agnes was very powerful 3 or so boxes ago. I don't think she got anything new since then. I mean, she got like good Mystic. Like, okay, so to be clear, most of the Mystics didn't really get anything out of Scarlet Keys, because Scarlet Keys was a weird box for Mystics. I think Edge of the Earth, she got some pretty reasonable cards in there. I think all the multi-class spells are probably pretty great in her. And then what's before that? It's Innsmouth, right? Yeah, again, like it's part of the thing. I think that because Agnes is kind of low on the gimmick skill, right? Like unless a card says horror, it's not really like specifically an Agnes card. But like you could play Curse Agnes, you can play Bless Agnes even, because she has Survivor access. So like it's not that she doesn't get anything from the boxes. It's just that like she doesn't get anything special from those boxes. All right, Wendy. How much fun is Wendy? Wendy is pretty fun. I like that she has the rogue access. I like that she can get like all tricky and event based. I am a huge fan of drawing the autofill way too often, which is what I always do. And so discarding cards to draw less autofills is great, and I am a huge hoe for scavenging, so I love any investigator that can use scavenging effectively, and Wendy is up there for best scavenging user, to be honest. All right, that was the core set. I'm trying to rush through these because I know that like we're 15 minutes in roughly, and we're gonna be we've done one box, so I'm gonna be here a while. All right, Zoe. I'm gonna put you A minus. I think. Is that unfair? No, I think that's fair. So okay. Uh, Zoe, if you're playing Dream Beaters, obviously Zoe is insane, but otherwise, I think Zoe is just perfectly serviceable. I think a big part of me is like, well, Zoe's main gimmick used to be that she was the investigator who got economy in a faction that historically didn't get economy. And I think Zoe, but I think that's become less and less true as time has gone on. Guardian has reasonable economy now. It's still not great. Like, I don't get me wrong. It's still like definitely worse than a lot of the other factions, but there are good economy cards in Zoe, and in Guardian, and I think Zoe kind of, as a result, doesn't do as great. But I think like she's still perfectly serviceable, right? Like, don't get me wrong, just being A minus doesn't mean she's bad. She can one hit kill a lot of enemies with her cross. Her weakness is not that bad. It's sometimes even very funny. Her abilities are pretty nice. 4 in willpower is pretty good on a Guardian. Love seeing that. Yeah, like I don't have anything bad to say about her, and I'm also going to put her in A minus. Like, I think Dunwich Splash is actually one of the worst of classes. This is my controversial take. I think Dunwich Splash is pretty bad. A lot of the time, you don't actually get to like build around that. You just get to put like some good cards in your deck, and yeah, yeah. Oh, Jason, I've never thought about doing Dream Eater Zoe. That's really funny. It's incredible because, in case you don't know, it's familiar, Dream Eaters has the swarm mechanic, and each of the swarm enemies counts as a different enemy for Zoe's engage trigger. So you can just get like 3 resources out of nowhere. It's fantastic. Zoe is very. If you want to have a silly time, play Zoe in Dream Eaters. Okay, we get the Rex. Okay. I'm gonna get banned off Reddit for this. Okay, I think Rex is overhyped. I think that Rex is good. He does what he does very well, but he does only what he does to the exclusion of anything else, and that is not good enough for me in 2024. Right? I know that, and maybe this is one of those cases where, like, as you get higher player count, you're expecting different things from your Seeker, and this is definitely something that we'll get back to when we get to Ursula, because that's also an investigator I'm going to rate quite highly. I think, okay, so I think Rex is definitely A tier material. I think putting Rex in B tier, Jason, that would actually just be trolling. No, I think the thing about Rex is that his ability is incredibly potent action compression, right? Like getting a free clue, getting basically a free, but the thing is, it's just a free working hunch every turn, right? It's not a free deduction, or maybe it's a free deduction in the sense that like you have to investigate for it, but that's it, right? That's all he does. He gets his signature card is a draw 5, which is good, but like whatever. It doesn't really have anything you can build around. And his signature weakness is actually miserable to play with. It's not actually bad, it's just miserable to play with. And I feel there's only like one Rex deck for like a good Rex deck, which is you stack all your intellect boosts and then you just get lots of clues. You have Milan, you have magnifying glasses, you have all that stuff. And it's just like, how much better is that deck than any other Seeker deck that is just using a ton of skills, using actual deduction to get loads of clues very quickly, but is also doing support things like Daisy can, or helping everybody else pass their tests like Min can, or getting free working hunches like Joe Diamond can. Like the argument, I think the part of the discussion where I kind of I stop making sense is that this idea that you get a free deduction every turn is super broken doesn't comprehend because I can do that in any other Seeker and I don't need that many deductions, right? So there is one Rex deck that I really like, or I have really liked, which is Forced Learning, with scavenging, because I love scavenging. Scavenging, there are a bunch of cool tomes. There is Fingerprint Kit, there is Crafty. There's a lot of fun you can have with Rex. I've played that deck through Edge of the Earth. It was amazing. I think Rex is not an investigator that like really has anything special going on, and I don't know. My argument for why I think his power level is only A is that I think Seekers can get clues. Any Seeker can get a comparable amount of clues, and the amount of mileage you miss by not getting that deduction every turn is more than made up for by support stuff and things like that. Like, you don't just need your Seeker to press the get clue button every turn. Jenny. Okay. Jenny Barnes is maybe C. No, C tier's too low. Jenny goes in B tier, I think. Jenny, okay. No, Jenny goes in C tier. Sorry, Jen. Okay, so here's my my Jenny comment is, any campaign you should be able to solo with Jenny on standard. If you can't do that, something's gone wrong in the design. And I think this is maybe why I would argue that 3 meters is maybe not a great campaign for solo. But yeah, basically, I think Jenny Barn is like the perfect benchmark for investigators for like a solo investigator. She can do a little bit of anything, but she can't do like anything that concretely. And when you break down investigators, you can often turn their ability into, you get a special action that it can only be used for X. So for example, Roland, when you defeat an enemy, you get an automatic clue. For Agnes, when you take horror, you get an automatic point of damage. For Daisy, it's a tome action. For Rex, it's an extra clue. For Jenny, it's an extra action that gives you a resource. And with how the game has developed, rogues who are not Jenny are swimming in resources. And it's so hard to have that as your investigator ability when there are just so many better things going on. And the other problem is that Jenny her stat line's not great, her signatures are awful, her signature weakness is terrible. I was kind of hoping that we would get Parallel Jenny. We didn't, so fingers crossed that she's going to be a good one. Sorry, Jen. C tier. Alright, Jim Culver. Here. I'm at least going to do him justice and put him pretty high in the other... that's probably too high. I'm going to put him B tier. Okay. Jim... do I have to spend a lot of time talking about why Jim is in D tier? I don't think I have to at this point, right? Everybody else has already done it. Okay, I think that Parallel Jim should have had... if I were the one designing the game, and I'm not, but if I were, I would have swapped Jim and Agnes' deck building. I think Jim with Survivor 0-2 would be super interesting. Because at that point, you can actually take skill tests where you're counting on the zeros to pass you. And if you fail, you can still have it do good stuff, right? You can do, look what I found. You can do oops. You can do dumb luck. That's the other one. You can do live and learn, right? There are a lot of Survivor things you can do. But the reality is that with 0-5 off class, with 5 level 0 off class, you just aren't going to be able to do that deck. And I think Jim is just done dirty by his deck building, more so than anything else, because I think that there are a bunch of different, very interesting Jim designs you could do if he was just a little bit different, and he's not. And the problem is that the Jim decks that I've really enjoyed playing, which I'm going to put him in A-. I've really enjoyed playing Jim. This is maybe me being nostalgic. They're probably just better in Jacqueline, right? That's the problem. If you want to do a multi-token reveal deck, you're probably better off in Jacqueline. Though I will say, he is the best Olaf McBride user, and we're getting a new Olaf McBride, so I don't know. I never hate seeing Jim. I love Jim. He's not very good, but I love him. I have a link to the tier maker, but I have to give credit to Hatful Bob for this link, which I then have to also give credit to Playing Board Games, because I believe this link is theirs. I believe it is the Playing Board Games tier list. So, Ashcan Pete is, I think, very good example of A-. He is very strong level 0. I think he is... So, the reason I say Jim is the best... Sorry, I'm reading chat saying that Matteo is the best Ultimate Private user. So, the thing is, Matteo wants to be Elder Shrine fishing, and we'll get to him when we get to him. Jim, mathematically, the chance that Jim gets benefit off of Ultimate Pride is just higher than everybody else, because once you've seen a single 0, it just becomes a grotesque statue, right? You just get 2 other tokens, you could pick whichever one of those is better. And for Jim, there's just more 0s in the bag. So, sorry, we're on to... We're done with Jim, we're going to talk about Ashcan Pete now. Ashcan Pete is fantastic at level 0. He has great stats for doing stuff early on in the campaign. He's very reliable. He's got multiple very strong level 0 decks. He's not amazing once you level him up, but I will say I have played a Scavenging Ashcan Pete deck with, Plucky, Granny Orn, Scavenging level 2, Shovner Scatlock, and then the very key card of Ice Pick, because I think that's the biggest card or the biggest effect that Ashcan is usually missing, which is compression, right? His attack is only going to do 2 damage, and his investigates are only going to get 1 clue. Ice Pick solves that. I think still I'm comfortable putting him in A-, especially because he's got like a deck in that case. Yeah, he's very solid, right? He's always going to be reliable. He's a fantastic mid-campaign pickup. If you somehow, like, somebody gets killed or driven insane, you have to pick somebody up. He's way more tanky than people realize. I think a lot of people sleep on the fact that he's got just like very solid defensive stats, and Survivor has a lot of ways of boosting those. So like Wendy is actually very hard to kill through the encounter deck, and he's just like good at making progress, right? Even if you just field work in him and just get 1 clue per turn, that's still like good progress. I'm gonna put him in A+. A lot of Survivor are gonna end up in A+, I think. All right, Mark. I don't like Mark. I don't find Mark very interesting. I think Mark is is the poster boy for Guardian from a different era. He's got 5 combat. He's very good at what he does. He get stop boost with Sophie. He can draw lots of cards. I think that is the main reason for me to like Mark, is that he's got a lot of card draw. I've played a Mark Practice Makes Perfect deck. I enjoyed that deck a bit. But ultimately, the only thing Mark does is kill things. He doesn't have anything more interesting going on than that. And I know that there's people who really like playing like that. I don't. So Mark's getting A+ tier because he is just super efficient. He's getting B tier on the fun scale because I don't like playing him. Alright, Min. Better than Rex. Fight me. She's also going S tier. Min! Min is probably one of the most underrated investigators, and I say that knowing that most people put her in A tier. Min gives... I think the main reason for that is because her real investigator ability is on her signature, and people are like, well, you don't start with your signature in play, so like, can you really build around it? And the answer is yes, if you just put a lot of cantrips and like card draw in your deck, which guess what, most skill-based Min decks are going to hit that no problem. Min is like second only to Amanda for deck cycling. I mean, I think she can cycle easier than Winifred, honestly. Maybe that's not true. She has an insane deck building. I am honestly not sure if Seeker and Survivor Access is not just better than Seeker Rogue. Like, I know that's controversial. Everybody's like, oh, Seeker Rogue is going to break the game. I'm like, we have Seeker Survivor, and I'm not convinced that's not just better. Because it's so good. There are so many good skills in Survivor. There's fantastic skills. Resourceful, Sharp Vision, Brute Force. Brute Force Min is fantastic. You just get 4 icons on a combat check. You throw them to anybody with your analytical mind. You can, like, somebody's halfway across the map and they need to fight this 3 health enemy that just popped up. No worries, here's a Brute Force. Oh, I don't have it? Don't worry, I'll resourceful it. Min, like, Grizzly Totem, insane card. Like, her weakness not even that bad. Like, I know everybody's joking about King in Yellow with, like, autofails, but, like, then you just do it again. Like, ever since they printed Dream Diary, I don't think you can put Min lower than A+. Min passes any test, no worries. She helps your team pass tests, which is like very, very big. She's a better fighter than most Guardians if you go Ancient Stones. Like, I don't like that playstyle. I don't think it's like healthy for the game. But I think that a lot of Guardians actually can't step to what Min brings if she's going full damage. Min is fantastic. Play more Min. Like, she's better than Rex. Fight me. I think the amount of tests you will pass because Min is in your group is higher than the amount of extra clues that Rex is like. That compensates. No worries. All right, next up, Sefina. Sefina is like inverse Roland Banks in terms of power level, in the fact that they're both B tier, but Roland is B tier by not doing lots of shenanigans and just being very efficient. And Sefina is by being not very efficient but having tons of shenanigans. I'm currently playing through Sefina through Dark Matter, having an absolute blast with the deck. I think the fact that I've printed more exceptionals, especially in Edge of the Earth, really helped her. Because her secret special ability is that she draws 13 cards at the start of the game, so you're just going to see your exceptionals more often. Likewise, Underworld Support, fantastic card for her. Let's put her in A tier. We don't have anybody in A tier yet, so I might swift her around a bit, but I like playing with events. I love event-based playstyles. I'm really excited for Sefina parlay-based decks when Hemlock Vale comes out. I think she is probably the next best person to be using them after Alessandra. And we've seen some really powerful cards in Rogue events. So yeah, I'm excited for Sefina going forward. Like, I think, again, it's the kind of idea, like, Sefina should always be good. Maybe she hasn't always been. I think she definitely needs a bigger card pool than someone like Roland, but she's also just, like, really fun to play. Akachi! I don't know where I want to put you. I think I'll put you here just for safety's sake. I like Akachi. I think she's super fun. Actually, super fun is exaggeration. Sorry, that's hyperbole. I think Akachi is very solid. She's the kind of investigator that is great for new players to learn how to play Mystic. She's a little boring, but she actually loops around to being more interesting. No, so David's saying Akachi is the mark of Mystics. I would agree with you, but only on surface level, because unlike Mark, Akachi actually has like a lot of depth underneath, but you have to go looking for it. And even then, like, I do think that she's like, fine, she's going here. She's like kind of struggling sometimes to get there. So Edge of the Earth with the off-class spells helped her a lot. The multi-class spells, because those like more charges. In general, I think Akachi is... Her signatures are very good. That's the thing. If Mystic had more draw, I would probably put her in A. And I know they've gotten some draw recently, but the thing is, you really want that Spirit Seeker. Because you can then start looping your spells and stuff. You can do crazy things. Yeah, she does play generic Mystic very well, but she does also have like some interesting decks. I've done so I've seen Dragon Pole on the Clock. I think that's hilarious. The deck that I was doing with her is multiclass. This was during the campaign play along, so we did only have Edge of the Earth cards basically as our expansion. But you put in Blur. Blur is fantastic in her. Blur is fantastic in anybody, but Blur is great. And then Seeker, and then you put in Brand of Katuga. You don't even need Divination, and then you have the Synergy card, and you get an extra charge on the Synergy card as well. So you just get a bunch of bonus actions, which is great. Jason asking, are you ordering it all within the tiers? I am not. I am going to save my nerves, save my brain, and not order within the tier. I'm just gonna throw them down there. I might maybe a little, but no, I'm not ordering within the tier. William York, A+. York is... No, I don't want him there. I want him there. Ooh. Sorry, we're going back to Akachi real quick. Sorry, the reason why I keep having to go back is because obviously chat is slightly delayed for me, and so when I get to the next investigator, I see a bunch of replies to the previous. Tons of charges. Cards seem worse in her, like the multi-class spells, because it's just +1. Yes, for her ability, but no for her for her signature card, because they tend to be on the cheaper side, and they have a very potent effect for what they do. And they tend to run out of charges very quickly, right? Like, Brand gets 2 charges pretty quickly. Blur gets 2 charges. Like, Blur's, I think, the exception in general. Blur is just great. But you can bounce them back to your hand, because that's one of the things that Spirit Speaker does. And then you can replay them and get way more value out of them. I agree that, like, her +1 charge is not as good on the on those charges alone, but it works in her toolkit very well. Okay, we're on to blame Yorick. Yorick is a beast of an investigator. He's got good stats. He's got a incredibly powerful ability. He's got one of the best, if not the best, Elder Sign in the game. He's basically unkillable. The only reason he's not an S tier is because he's not that good at killing enemies, but he can get clues. He basically never dies. If you code and keepsake and guard dog. He's also the Bless King. Yes, he is one of the better Bless investigators. Honestly, the only reason I'm not putting him in A+ tier for fun is because he's not actually a good scavenging user, and I like my item recursion to be scavenging based. But yeah, Yorick is... Man, A+ tier is filling up pretty quickly. Yorick is... Yeah, he's just pretty good. I don't know, it's just like... He doesn't struggle to pass tests because he's got all that Survivor BS. He's got reasonable weapons and damage compression thanks to Guardian. He's just really good. Alright, Lola. No, I'm joking. But, I mean, I am actually kind of curious... No, I put him B tier. I think... Okay. Oh, okay. We're gonna be discussing Lola a bit, I imagine. While I'm trying to think where I put her in the other list. I think Lola is quite strong these days. She's honestly, like, if there was a B+ tier, I might put her in that. Ever since the taboo, but even before the taboo, let's go back to before the taboo, Lola was already way stronger than people thought she was. Oh yeah, Lola definitely above Jenny. Lola very far above Jenny. Lola is... Her abilities are deck building, right? Like, saying the obvious, but like, people don't recognize what that does until you sit down with Jenny, or sit down with Lola, and she has like 4 effects before the game even trigger, and then before the game even starts. She has tarot cards, she has a bunch of neutral powerful assets these days, like sled dogs are great for her. She has Another Day, Another Dollar, she has Scroll Secrets. Scroll Secrets is the best answer to anyone's weakness ever. Since they tabooed that, it is great. Yeah, like Jason, the way Jason puts it, it's like gotta love starting with 9 resources and 7 cards in hand. That's basically like a big part of, like, that's half of Sefina's ability. And Lola also gets that. She also gets powerful skill cards. She gets a lot of trickery. I've seen multiple different Lola builds do things that I think no other investigator could do. And I think the only reason she's B tier is because she's inconsistent. And she requires a lot of XP. Right? Those are the 2 things that are holding her down. And that's probably for good reasons, because if she was any more consistent and any less XP, like if she got more XP, she would be broken. I think that a late game Lola Haystack might be one of the most broken investigators in the game, because you can do everything with her. She's really good. She's also basically unkillable if you build her with like a lot of soak allies. Very good. However, I don't like playing her because she gives me a headache. Now, she probably gives me less of a headache now that she's been tabooed, because it used to be that if you made a misplay, you just lost your entire board. Now you only lose 1 card, which is a lot safer. But her deck building is still very convoluted. I'm tempted to put her in NA because I haven't actually looked at her since the taboo list. And yeah, this is my cop out. I don't know what to do with her. I think if I were to put her on the list right now, I would put her in C tier, but I think that's unfair, and that's just like a result of me having been working on looking at all these new Hemlock Ville cards recently. Because if I sat down and was like, I'm going to play Lola in a campaign, I would probably really enjoy the deck building challenge. So yeah, we're putting her in NA, and we're going to see about that. Leo is A-. Leo is very functional. I think Guardian allies are quite good. I think Rogue allies are a little bit less good, but still very good. I think The ability to play them for cheaper and without taking the action is very strong. I think he's probably the best guard dog user. Maybe Mark has a beat on that. His, do I put him in A tier? I think I put him in A tier. Just looking at that A tier, like, that's not full enough. I think Tesla's damage really good, which is what guard dogs do. Refilling ammo and supplies would be better if Venturer was cheaper, if we ever get a Venturer like level 2 or something. I think he can do a lot of the Guardian builds quite well, because allies are just so good in this game. But he's ultimately kind of a straightforward investigator. Not a lot of nuance there, I think. But also, the nice thing is he is... Guardian as a faction tends to have a problem with economy and card draw. And Rogue does solve that to some degree, right? He can take Faustian Bargains and he can take Lucky Cigarette Cases, and that gets him very far. So yeah, I'm never going to begrudge Leo. Ursula. Ursula is also going in A tier. Right next to Rex. And yes, that is on purpose. I think Ursula is consistently one of the most underrated investigators in the game, and I think the only reason is because people look at Seekers and all they want the Seekers to do is press button, get clue. And I don't like that. And I think that is really what takes people out of Ursula, when it's completely unfair, because Ursula does reasonable amounts of clue getting, but she doesn't sit in one location and just empty the location of clues. Ursula still gets tons of clues, right? Ursula is still a very good clue getter. She just does it in a different way, in a way that people don't expect. And, or at least I assume this is the reason, right? Because I can't really grok why people put Ursula so low otherwise, because she's a perfectly serviceable clue getter. She's great field work. She has great mobility. Her action compression, or her bonus action, basically gets you tons. Like, if you play Ursula well, she will probably get you about as many clues as Rex does with her bonus ability, right? Because it's just an extra investigator, right? That is another clue. That is just straight up another clue. And we have Pathfinder. We're in the faction with Pathfinder. I don't like Pathfinder, right? I do not enjoy Pathfinder as a card, but I accept its existence because without it, Ursula would be as bad as people say she is. But yeah, and even if you don't want her, you have the hiking boots, you have shortcut. Ursula has good stats, indeed. Her deck building is awful. I will concede that. Her relic access does nothing. She's basically just Seeker 0 to 5. She's basically just, not Norman, what's the other one? I forget his name. Harvey, yeah. And I guess that's the other thing. Her signatures aren't that good. Her signature ability, or her signature friend, Jake William, not that impressive. Seeker has really good level 0 allies. And the thing is, I don't think her weakness is that bad. I think her weakness is like straight up mostly not there. Because it does whatever you want her to do anyway, right? You want to be bouncing between locations. That's what she does. Yeah, slap a field work in her and have a blast. Finn. Hey, it's the first time rogues are going to be like really good, actually. Finn is definitely the turning point for rogues. I think there's been a lot of said about early game rogues and later game rogues and how rogues have grown as a faction. Sefina was a really good... Sefina was a really good rogue, but Sefina never really felt like the other rogues. Finn was the first time where a rogue really felt like a rogue, but also was just like really strong. Scarlet Keys made Finn a lot stronger as well, because it was basically a illicit expansion. Poor Preston. His deck building, people meme on his deck building a lot, but it is my opinion that it's not that bad. There are a couple of cards he would like to take, but he can live without. And as a general rule, he's just really solid. Bonus actions are incredibly good. He can draw cards like nobody else with pickpocketing and Lucky Cigarette Case, and he's really good. Father Mateo. Father Mateo. So I'm putting him in a C tier because we've seen Kohaku. I think Father Mateo... So his first sin was being printed 2 cycles too early, because if they put Father Mateo in the Bless expansion, he would have been a lot better. Blessing of Isis is a good card for him. It is a reason to play him. 6 cents Blessing of Isis, Father Mateo, actually kind of fun to play. But now we have seen a bless-based mystic that is probably more interesting than Father Mateo. Uh, yeah, I just think Father Mateo might have needed a little bit more. Like it's an unfortunate case that any mystic that tries to do something interesting and new tends not to really get there, and Father Mateo is probably the biggest like victim of that. I think Amina at least has something really cool printed on her, and there might be a day where Amina really rises from the ashes and becomes a great investigator. Father Mateo, it's just like, yeah, you want to see his Elder Sign a lot. Like, he was printed, so yeah, he was printed in Forgotten Age, and Forgotten Age mystics were all about sealing tokens. And the idea, I think, was you're going to pull these tokens out of the bag, and that way you're going to draw more Elder Signs. But the reality is that those are not decks that people, like, I haven't really seen people play a lot of those decks. And I think that his Elder Sign is not good enough to compensate. Like, he is one of the better Elder Signs, but he's not even, I don't even know if he's making top 5 best Elder Signs anymore. And because an auto success is not that good in this game, and a extra action or card and a resource is really good, but you have investigators like Yorick who just get a card back. You have investigators like Silas who gets to commit skills and then commit skills again. So yeah, he's just, and the rest of his toolkit isn't quite there either. Yeah, no, sorry, Father Mateo. I know we're getting a new Blast expansion. Maybe he'll be really cool, but I also kind of feel that because we already have seen Blessing of Isis, we aren't going to see a lot more Blessed stuff that interacts with the Elder Sign, which is just going to make him like less interesting by comparison. Okay, Kelvin. Kelvin's going B tier. I think Kelvin is another investigator who gets like a little underappreciated, but not by too much, and I think it's fair, right? Like, I think realistically, Kelvin isn't an A tier investigator. But he is a B tier investigator, and I think it's just a matter of playstyle. I really like playing Kelvin. I think Kelvin is a super fun, like exciting roller coaster. I think as survivors as a card pool have deepened, Kelvin has become less appealing to me, and now we have Hank, who is maybe muscling in on Kelvin's niche a bit, but he is the only survivor who gets good stats, but he also has an interesting niche in there with the base difficulty, like, or base skill level versus difficulty stuff. He's also got, because of his spirit access, he can do like a tank, kind of a Tommy playstyle. I love him with Meat Cleaver and Jessica and Peter. I think he's really fun to play. I think I really enjoy playing Kelvin, and I think his Spirit Access is like super interesting, and that's why part of why I'm pretty excited to see it on Hank as well, because I've enjoyed playing with those cards. His signature is literally what my channel is named after. What more do you want? Stay winning gaze. I mean, Kelvin's great. I love Kelvin. I know that there's a couple of campaigns where you probably shouldn't bring Kelvin because he's going to go insane or defeated by trauma. Carolyn. Carolyn's gotten a lot better. I remember looking at the Playing Board Games ranking and going, wow, that's really high for Carolyn. And then he started explaining it, and I'm like, no, you're actually right. Carolyn's just like really good now. I think the biggest challenge I have with her is her stat line. But even then, it's not like terrible. It's like workable. And she has really good deck building and actually gets like a reasonable ability on top of that. Like, she has kind of Jenny's ability in a way where she gets just way more money than everybody else. She's a funky little creature, and I don't quite know. Maybe she should go A tier. I don't know. She's a support investigator, not really. She's a Kluver, not really. My last couple of experiences with Carolyn haven't been that great. I think that's part of what's like holding me back, is when the last time I tried this, I think I played it with Phyleon. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. And we just got like destroyed in like Return to Dunwich. So yeah, I don't know. Caroline is somebody I think I need to go back and look at again, because I think in the last 2 expansions she's gotten like a ton of good cards. I'm not thinking about Carolyn with the ICPC investigator. And it's like, oh, that would be really strong. So yeah, I'm going to drop to A. Joe Diamond. Joe Diamond's an investigator a lot of other people were pretty low on, but I just really like him. The only thing that I have is like, his hunch deck is basically unchanged, I think, from when he released, which is something that I think is kind of disappointing. I I've tried different stuff in the Hunch deck, and the reality is just like, no, I want card draw and automatic close in there, and I don't really want anything else. And that's a bit of a shame, but also, like, his proactive stats are really good, defensive stats are manageable a lot of the time. He is definitely someone who needs a little bit more of a team to help him, but I've run Jardamage solo through Carcosa and had no problem with him. I think he's going B tier. He's fine. Preston Fairmont, the king of the Chaos Bag, is not the boss for me. Yeah, if this were purely an expert solo tier list, Preston would be the only S tier and everybody else would be in D tier. Preston does not care about what the Chaos Bag thinks of him, and he's really fun. He's actually got a couple of different builds. He's got like a very survivor-leaning build. He's got a more rogue-leaning build. He's got like an exceptional build. I think there are lots of different ways to take Preston, and lots of money is always good. And as I think the game has progressed, low stats have become less and less of an issue. So yeah, Preston's just great. Diana Stanley. I think ever since they nerfed her weakness by that weird ruling, the for each ruling, I don't think I've played her since. But that's not because I'm like, oh, I don't want to play her now. It's just because, like, literally there's so many investigators and I don't get around to all of them anymore. But I still imagine she's good. Like, horror was never really a problem for her, so she maybe loses one card from underneath her. And she is the only Mystic so far they've printed with a printed 6 on her willpower, which is just kind of insane in and of itself. Her other numbers being 3s is actually still relevant. She can run a lot of cards that rely on like combat, intellect, or agility and still have them be usable, which might be like, yeah, whatever. But you play her with daring and you can just evade people, right? She requires a specific kind of playstyle, but when you get that deck going, it is so strong. It just mitigates a lot of the encounter deck, which is really good. Yeah, I think she's really strong. And her, again, she also has that core set deck building, right? So she's just going to be very strong and have kind of fun, neat deck buildings because you can try different Guardian cards on her. And then realize that her Mystic cards are probably, also really good. Mary Lambeau. Marie Lambeau. Is it Marie or is it Mary? I suppose it would be Marie, right? I mean, they're derived from the same word, obviously, but am I happy putting her in B tier? I think I'm happy putting her in B tier. I played Marie just before Scarlet Keys came out, and True Edge the Earth, which means my ability was offline for the last act, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, she's actually like really solid. She's definitely not one of the better Mystics, but she is an intellect 4 investigator who has some seeker access, so she can just get clues that way, which leaves her arcane slots free to do other stuff. She gets an extra action. Like, that's the thing. Marie has a lot of things that, were they all packaged together into a different investigator, would probably make that investigator broken, because she got an extra action, good intellect, reasonable deck building, and just, like, it's surprising how not broken she is. With Scarlet Keys, she has a lot of more tools in her toolkit, but she's also just like, a lot of those tools aren't very good. Oh, poor Marie. Alright, Rita. I don't know what it is about survivors with 5s in their stats. Survivors with 5ers. Or maybe it's just Rita. It might just be Rita, to be honest. The weird thing is, I like evasion-based strategies. I like tricky events-based strategies, and somehow I don't like Rita. And I think that is actually like kind of a failure of design somewhere. I just don't know where to put the blame. I think the problem is her deck building and playstyle are very roguish instead of being very survivor-ish, and they try to compensate for it by putting more roguelike cards in Survivor, and I don't like those. I don't want to be too critical of Rita. I think she's like good at what she does. Her weakness is pretty brutal. Her signature is a joke. Her ability is really good. Her 7 agility is always fun. Her purple actually pretty nice, especially now that they printed some trick assets. You're not gonna see me roll up. I have tried Rita last year. I tried her in Dream Eaters, and I had fun with it. Like I don't think she's terrible. I don't think she's like a mistake to have in the game or anything like that. But she's just like, I don't know. She's Survivor, but she doesn't play like most Survivors, and I think that's kind of what's like putting her off of me for me. All right, Tommy. So this might be a controversial pick, but he's not S tier. He's not S tier, but he's very close to S tier for me. Not because he's good at fighting monsters. That's to be clear. That is gone. That's also coming up, but not quite yet. But the reason why Tommy is A plus tier is because he is like the best investigator at just not having your team die to damage and horror. Like the entire team. Damage and horror just ceases to become a relevant drawback to anything, so you can just take attack of opportunity whenever you want. You can deal with encounter cards through whatever damage or horror you need. Once Tommy has some XP under him, he's the champion of not dying, and he is also economy in a faction that needs economy. He has survivor access and does fun things with that. He is a amazing bless investigator. His gun is fun. You can build around his gun. His weakness is interesting. I think Tommy, to me, hits a lot of the right notes for an investigator. I don't like the traditional Guardian playstyle, which is why I don't play Tommy more. But I still, I'm gonna put Tommy in A-. I don't play him that much. But yeah, like strength-wise, I think Tommy's maybe slept on a little bit because people don't realize, like, hey, I ended this scenario with less damage, like with very little damage horror on me. That means I could probably have taken a couple more risks, and Tommy compensates for that, right? Like, there's a huge discussion about like soak and healing and tempo and all that stuff in there. But the short answer is, if Tommy's in your team, you can probably play a little bit more risky and have soak to fall back on if things backfire, which means you can make more progress more aggressively, which is like, again, it's a benefit that is hard to put into like numbers, but is quite good. Mandy got the boot into a very weird spot, and I'm very interested to see where she ended up. It's like, do I put her in an A? I haven't played Mandy since the Taboo. She's... One sec. Sorry, that's what you get when you, like, been talking for an hour straight, is you start coughing. So, Mandy's in a very odd spot, I think, right now. In my head, compared to where I remember her being, because I remember Mandy with fast Rook and with 30 card deck, and being the most powerful investigator in the game, bar none. Right? I think Untaboot, Mandy is probably still the strongest investigator in the game, assuming that non-taboo also applies to Rook. However, as she sits right now, I think she's kind of more interesting. 50 card deck size and Rook no longer being like this auto-include puts her in a much more interesting spot. One sec, did I remember to... Yeah, no, I am muted. Okay. Can you all still hear me? Just checking. David's asking about the choice of off-class for Mandy. Yeah, so I think there's actually a reason for all three of them, which is good, because that's not the case for all of them. I think Mystic off-class gives you, as Jason points out, gives you Delve, Ward, and Deny, and then probably Razor. Wait, no, probably not Razor, because you only have one combat and 3 willpower. You get redesigns and maybe something like Ethereal Slip. If you're going Rogue, you lean into the evasion side of things. You get Slip Away, and so Rogue used to be the most broken one because that was the 3 aces Oh, Pearls of Power and Mystic also very good. You used to go 3 aces and easy marks in Rogue. You can still do easy marks, but 3 aces now removes from the game. At Survivor side, you really get a lot of very cool clue tech, which things like Sharp Vision and Fortuitous Discovery, as well as just like some unusual cards, lucky, stuff like that. I think Survivor is probably the worst because it's doing what she's already very good at. I want to try Mandy again. Man, my serious, it's going to be so full at the end of this. I might have to bump somebody up a notch. I'm going to bump up Akechi. I'm going to bump up Agnes. Agnes gets a bonus point just for being a bluff investigator. I think Mandy's investigator I want to try again after the taboo, because I think 50 card Mandy is way more interesting. But it's also an investigator that, like, again, for the deck building side of things, you start getting into a little bit. It's not necessarily decision paralysis, but it's just like, oh god, I've got 50 cards. What the heck do I do with all these cards? So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna move on. I think I've said enough about Mandy. Let's talk about Tommy. Tony. S tier. I can't argue against S tier Tony and A plus tier Tony here. Tony Morgan has 3 incredible off classes. All 3 of them are very good on him as well. If you want to go pure fighter, monster killer, you go Guardian. If you want like good solo stuff, it's probably Seeker. And if you want like survivability, you go Survivor. Also Stunning Blow. Put Stunning Blow on Tony. He has the most fight actions in a single turn anyone is ever going to have. You put Haste in him, you put Leo DeLuca in him. He can afford Leo DeLuca because he gets economy out of his ability. He has some good guns. He has amazing fight value. If you need things to die, you call up Tony. Like, it's that easy. And he's actually like really fun to play as well, because Rogue is a deep enough card pool and a broad enough card pool that you can actually do fun stuff with him as well. Like, it's not just killing monsters, which I really like. All right. Look at S tier purely for the amount of headaches he's produced for me in the last couple of years. Because I used to be doing a lot of rules-related stuff. Yeah, Luke is, I think, one of the highest skill-stealing investigators in the game. When to use his gatebox and how to use his gatebox is incredibly skill-challenging. Seeker 0 to 2 access is insane and incredible on him. His stat line isn't as low as you think because you've got Hawkeye folding camera. His event ability is crazy good. Look at S tier. I think look at A tier, A plus tier for me for fun. Like, I don't want to put him in S tier. I don't think he deserves quite that. We're getting to some investigators who are. Don't worry. Patrice. Okay, so I'm going to give Patrice a little bit of credit where it's due. I don't know if Fasmida is going to be watching this later, because I think he's currently in a car, so he can't tune in live. Love you, buddy. But also, he is the person who always plays Patrice in my group. Like, Patrice is his, like, if he doesn't know who to play, just play Patrice. I think Patrice is kind of like an exemplary B tier investigator. Maybe she's even like A minus. Looking at who I have in B tier right now, yeah, I'm gonna put her in A minus. Maybe that's like not entirely correct, and some of these should be lower. But like, Patrice is fantastic. Like, Patrice is unreliable, but she's not that unreliable, right? You can put in enough cards that she's going to perform reasonably consistent most games. And she is one of the best investigators at passing any test, anytime, anywhere. And her only challenge really is compression, I think. Especially movement and like just action compression in general. There are a ton of different Patrice builds you can do. Patrice is going an S tier for me. She's just so much fun. She's just such a blast to play. She has a ton of interesting micro decisions, right? Like, you get 5 cards that you have to make choices with every single game. And yeah, she's great. I love Patrice. Violin is super interesting. Watcher is actually an interesting card. Yeah, love Patrice. Sister Mary, we're on to Innsmouth. We're on to the first cycle of Bless and Curse Investigators. I think Sister Mary isn't quite what I like to see in my game.
simply because, as especially now that we're seeing Hemlock Vale preview cards, I think part of the challenge is that the original cycle of Innsmouth Bless cards were kind of designed around the idea that Sister Mary would be playing them, and so the bag would get more Blesses anyway, but then that made the Bless cards underpowered than everybody else because there weren't ways to generate Blesses in Guardian, and now these days we're getting way more Bless generation in Guardian, but that just kind of shoves Sister Mary to the side, and I think, to name somebody purely coincidentally, not at all, because we're going to be talking about her parallel later. If you give Zoe your my preview card in Cecil token, she's probably going to generate as many blessed tokens as Sister Mary is. And Sister Mary's deck building is really awkward. Mystic 0-2 is not doing for her what it did to Zoe or to Daisy, and 2 intellect, 3 combat is not great for somebody who doesn't have rogue or survivor access. I enjoy Sister Mary for a couple of scenarios in a campaign. I don't think I would enjoy Sister Mary for an entire campaign, and I don't think I've seen her in a very long time. So maybe I need to go back to her. I think once Hemlock Vale releases, I will be doing a game with Sister Mary again, just to see if I can change my mind on her. But yeah, she's just Amanda. Amanda stole the S tier from Min, to be honest. And the only reason she did that is because cheating on her FAT score. I don't know. Okay, Amanda is, if there was a tier above S tier in the power level, it would probably just be Amanda. Oh, right, I forgot about the non-existent rule also hitting Mary. I don't know. I think she hurts from it a lot more than Diana did. Because, putting a bunch of curses in or keeping the bag low and bless isn't an option for her, and she's not sturdy enough to take a 4 or 5 horror every game and be fine. Sorry, yeah, Amanda. Amanda is, again, high skill level investigator. You really need to know what you're doing with her, but she's also one of the most rewarding investigators in that point. So if we're playing on hard, I think I would maybe knock Amanda down a point, and then maybe Min takes her place in the S tier. But on standard, Amanda is pretty unbeatable as most powerful investigator in the game. Because you know what's better than 1 deduction every turn? It's 3 deductions several turns in a row. And that's what Amanda does. Amanda is the best deck cycler. She cycles faster than Winnie every game. Perception level 2 is a broken card. Eureka's not bad. Dream Diary is amazing. I kind of feel like I don't want to talk about this more. If you want to hear, if you want to see why Amanda's so broken, let me know. I'll do a playthrough on my channel at some point. I don't know what to do about her. One of the things that somebody mentioned is there was a thread on Reddit not too long ago about, hey, what do we do about Amanda being the most broken investigator? One of the interesting suggestions was lose the draw card from her ability. So you have to put a card underneath her, but you don't get the card automatically to replace it. That might be a good step in the right direction. Although, again, I wonder if that's not just going to push people into more broken decks that draw tons of cards, because that's the way you mitigate that. I like playing Amanda. I think she's very rewarding. She can also, because the thing about Amanda is you can really make misplays with her that cost you a lot of tempo. But if you play her right, she's so powerful. Speaking of being very powerful, Trish. Is Trish going S tier for me? I think Trish is going S tier for me. Maybe she should be going A+ tier. She did just get the boot. And the taboo does shut off one of the more broken things she could do. But she's still very... She's the best, evasion clue getter. I remember when she came out and everybody was like, well, Finn is dead now. Turns out that's not entirely the case. Finn actually has fun stuff to do still. But, Trish does what Finn used to do way better, which is get clues in a rogue style of play. She gets Seeker access, which is amazing. She has very good proactive stats. She's not the best at defensive, but combination of Seeker and Rogue cards means that she can really mitigate that. She has amazing deck building, agreed. Her weakness is a non-issue if you remember to put Obfuscation in your deck and draw for it, unlike what I did a couple of times. Her signature card is a better card than Skid's ever got. Rip. And yeah. She's a powerhouse, right? Trish is a certified powerhouse. Dexter Drake. We actually talked about Dexter earlier today in the Discord channel, which, by the way, if you're not in discord.gg/mythosbusters, it's a great place to just hang out and chat. I do it all the time. I probably do it more than I should. That's why I haven't gotten all my exams yet. I think Dexter is pretty middle of the pack as far as 5 willpower mystics go. He maybe deserves a little higher, but like, I don't know. I don't want to put him in A+ tier. He's got a fun little trick which helps with his economy, but he's not taking as much advantage of the rogue card pool as some of the other investigators. You know, he's not taking it like Trish. Or sorry, not Trish. Who am I thinking of? Who am I thinking? Wendy. I'm thinking of Wendy, I think. And Preston to a less... No, not Preston. Wow, my brain just like farted. He's... Yeah, he's fine. I think it's the main thing. I like him with curve cards. I don't like him as much just generally doing the Mystic 5 thing. And I think he's just... I think his most interesting decks are the ones that use like showmanship to boost up his other stats and use other stats instead of willpower. But those tend to be a little gimmicky. Silas Marsh is going in S tier for me for enjoyability. I love Silas. I think Silas is fantastic. He is, if you like playing skill-based investigators, and I don't mean skill as in like how good you are playing him, but as in the card type skills, Silas is the man. He has skill, like his values you can compensate for with the right skills, but he also just like, there are so many different ways to play around with Survivor. You can go Dark Horse, you can go Scavenging. Scavenging him is a little tricky, but you can do it. You can do Meat Cleaver, Peter Sylvester, and he has so many, like, he has the most interesting interactions on a turn-to-turn basis when you know that the card that you're not committing now, you might have to commit like 3 turns later, which is very different from Patrice. Right, Patrice is the, how can I get the most value out of this turn? Silas is the, actually I should put him in A-. He's not that good. Silas is the, how can I like utilize this set of resources in the next 3 turns or the next 4 turns, right? Especially because you're often having to use skills that you don't have very high stats on because you're using a bunch of intellect skills to compensate and you have to use his ability at the right time to pull back. Love Silas. Daniela! Oh, right, Unrelenting is a card. Yeah, Silas with Unrelenting is a bit broken. Okay. Daniela, I think, is poo-pooed a lot for her deck building. She is the Edge of the Earth deck building's biggest loser, and yes, that is true, but also she's just really good. I think also people are lower on her deck building than they should be, just because it's not higher level Guardian cards, which is what everybody wants because they want Guard Dog 2 in their deck. There are a lot of really good Survivor cards she can take, right? Don't forget that. She does actually get really strong cards anyway. I really enjoyed playing Daniela. I don't think I would play her a lot because, again, it's the typical Guardian playstyle of, you know, hit things until they die. But at least it's more interesting. All right, Norman. Is Norman going in S tier for me? I think Norman's going in S tier. Norman has card advantage, economy, deck manipulation, all that shebang. He is the astronomical atlas user. That is, I think, the deck that puts him into S tier for me. Getting a deduction every turn. Like, again, we were we were talking about Rex. Here's somebody who does deduction every turn, but better. He has access to the research assistant, so he can tutor all his signatures, or rather the relevant signature and the astronomical atlas, which is his like second signature. he has a very fun and interesting. Like, he is the one that definitely the Edge of the Earth deck building works the best on. And it's super neat. I've taken Norman through a couple different campaigns. Always really enjoyed it. He is, yeah, he embodies that playstyle very well. Monterey Jack, aka the Cheese Man. Are you just an A tier, Monterey? I think you're just an A tier. I think Seeker deck building is still very powerful, but Monterey actually gets the short end of the stick in this occasion because Seeker Zero is really, really, really strong, and he only gets 5 cards of that. The rest of them were stolen by Norman. And he gets the 1 to 5, which is still very good, but the 0 is actually like where a lot of the power is. I think, again, like Ursula, I'm going to put them next to each other because they're besties. They're like rivals, but they're like friendly rivals because they're always like trying to show off to each other. But on the end of the day, they do like each other. They appreciate each other. Yeah, I think Monterey Jack, I actually really like his ability. I think it's encouraging a very fun style of play. I think it came with a important tool set. Like, I think Monterey Jack without the Edge of the Earth cards, the rest of the cards, would be kind of meh, but with a couple of the key cards. Monterey is stronger than Silas. Yes. I think so. I think Monterey Jack Rogue access means he has really good ways of making use of that agility 5 of his, and Seeker access means he gets lots of clues. Although, now that you mention it, this is annoying that I have people in chat who can correct me when I'm wrong. You know what? You're right. But the mistake I made there is Silas to A-. Silas should be A tier. Yeah, no, you're correct. Silas should be A tier. Because Silas Elder Sign puts me to A tier. Monterey Jack is very good at getting clues and being self-sufficient. He can evade just about anything. If he has his whip down, he can kill a surprisingly large number of enemies. He's just like generally very solid. I don't want to put yet another investigator in A-, but I also feel like I'm going to shift some of these around. Sorry. I'm going to move you two up to A tier because I do actually enjoy that playstyle a lot. Because I remember last time I played Silas and I really enjoyed it. Or sorry, Rex, which is like the... Wait, where did that... Where did Monterey go? Oh, there he is. Like, where did Monterey Jack go? There. I think the main thing that's that turns me off on Monterey is his 4 intellect. It can be surprisingly hard to compensate for because you don't get Seeker 0 access. Lily Chan. I'm going to put Lily in the not available. I have seen Lily play True Campaign once, and it was good, but I feel like I haven't touched Lily or looked at Lily enough to really know. That is a bit of a cop-out, apologies, but also, it's just like... I feel like I would just not be doing her justice if I actually put her on the scale. I would probably put her quite low, but I think that's just my inherent bias against Guardian combined with not having seen her enough. Alright, Bob. Bob's going pretty high. Bob is a good support investigator who can also be quite self-sufficient, which has a pair of traits I really like. However, his stat line's not amazing, and he can end up quite gimmicky, but he's also really fun, especially in a bigger team, to just be that support who gives everybody money, who gives everybody their items. He's one of the investigators that really encourages team building, like teams changing how they're deck building, even though it's not like forced, and just thinking about, okay, which cards are items and how can I take advantage of that? So yeah, really like Bob. I think Bob is an amazing design. Would recommend playing Bob if you haven't. Nachos. Is that insensitive of me? I think that's fine. You're saying event-based Lily with the agility discipline, a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that is entirely how I would like to play Lily. Event-based. Haven't I done that at some point? I think I've tried that. Or at least I put the deck together. I remember like looking at like a bunch of events for Lily. But yeah, she's a tricky one. Alright, we're on to Nathaniel Cho. We're on to the starter deck investigators. There are going to be some heavy hitters in here. I think Nathaniel is Guardian. And so he's getting a pretty low score for me on the fun side, but he's getting an okay score on the effective side. 5 combat is never going to be bad. Hitting things extra hard is never going to be bad. He's gotten a surprising large amount of good cards in the last couple of expansions. He got Sweeping Kick, and what's the other card that he got? I remember there being another event that was like, oh, right, Nathaniel does this +1 damage with this. But regardless, this is... I think Nathaniel is always going to be an investigator that is, like, good at what he does, but I'm never going to be super excited to play him because only Guardian card pool is, like, one of the most boring card pools I can imagine, and he specifically, like, has... Oh, Totodile, that's the one, thank you. Yeah, Totodile, also great in Danielle. Also great in Daniela, yes. That's exactly where my mind went, but I meant to say Nathaniel. The problem, I think, the biggest problem to me with Nathaniel is that he has a deck, and there's not a lot of wiggle room there, which is what I like. I like in investigators. I like it. Actually, do I just put them in deep now? I might just get rid of the D tier on this side because I don't think I'm going to be using it. Looking at the rest of the list, yeah, I'm just going to delete this row. It's fine. Norman, or not Norman. No, that's the problem with it. Harvey. It's Harvey. Oh, hi, Valentine. Ah, that makes sense. Okay, hi. I'm gonna get some people really upset about me with this one, but, you know. Okay. Harvey is the go-to example for me about mistakes in weakness design. I think weaknesses in Arkham, as a general rule, should try to lean into whatever the investigator is doing, not straight up just making the intended playstyle for the investigator. You have to play Bulletproof Vest or you cannot engage. If you put a card in my deck that says if you have 15 cards in your hand, you get a nice thing, but also if you draw this weakness, which you're going to draw more often because it's an treachery-based weakness that discards after you draw it, so if you're deck cycling like every turn, then you're going to draw it every turn. It kills you. I don't want to play the investigator anymore. And I know that there are good Harvey decks, but I want to play a Harvey deck where I draw 15 plus cards, and I have 15 plus cards in my hand. And I can do that without dying to your stupid weakness. So no, I'm probably rating him lower just based on like emotional like reaction to this weakness. I still think like that was just a mistake. But also I think the argument that he like gives everybody else card draw, that's what Daisy's for. You just put Old Book of Lore in Daisy, and now you have better Harvey. Because you also get Mystic access. That's, to be fair, that is an argument I've basically made, I think, since Harvey came out, and I don't think anyone's proven me wrong yet, which is, if you take any Harvey deck, put it in Daisy instead, and then take out like a couple of cards to put in Delve, or sorry, not Delve, Deny Existence and Ward of Protection, you just have a straight up better deck. Alright, Winifred's. Winifred's so much fun. Winifred's getting S tier for fun, at least. I'm currently playing Winifred. I'm just going to put her in A tier, I think. I don't think she quite make it to A plus tier, but yeah. We just did Winifred as card of the day. First card of the day for the year, because we're starting off with, you know, the Thrill Seeker. She is so much fun. She is such a blast. She's more, like... Somebody mentioned yesterday, it's like, oh yeah, she just put Opportunist in her every time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm currently playing her without Opportunist. She's actually still fine. Like, the nice thing about Winnie is that she doesn't have to be to skill cards committed. It can be any cards. And so it really does just feel like Anarch and Netrunner, or it's just like, there are cards in my hands, but I don't care. Just toss them out there. They're fuel for the skill values. And you burn through your deck, you have Lucky Cigarette Case, you have cards that draw you cards, and then you're just like doing stuff. And I really like doing stuff in Arkham. I enjoy Winifred a lot. She might... I'm going to put her A plus tier. I'm going to put her A plus tier because she's a fun character and I really like her. But I don't know if that's entirely correct. But like, there's a lot of good things you can do. And her card pool, like, that's the I think the counterpoint to the Nathaniel card pool. I think only exclusively rogue cards actually really deep and interesting card pool. You can do a lot of different things, even only using rogue cards. So yeah. Do I need to explain Jacqueline S tier? Go ahead and try to fill skill tests while Jacqueline is giving you the best token out of 3 tokens. I dare you. It's not that easy. No, Jacqueline is just like, if you want to pass tests, Jacqueline might be the best. Jacqueline also has fantastic signature. Like, her signature is just another use of her ability, which is insane. Her weakness is kind of annoying, but you can mitigate it. And honestly, I think she's just the best Willpower 5 Mystic they've ever printed, just because you can't fail tests anymore, right? Any Mystic deck that doesn't rely on off-class cards, you can probably put in Jacqueline, and it is the best. Like, she's just a great home for it. Drawing good tokens tends to be very good in Arkham. She's only going to make A- for me, or A+ for me for fun, because she does only have Mystic cards, which tend to be not the most interesting card pool. Like, it's a good card pool, but it's not the most interesting one. And but she does get A+ because I enjoy support-based playstyles, and one of the things I really like about her is the idea of, okay, how is my team going to benefit most from the use of my ability this turn, right? That is something that I actually really like. It's only once per round, twice per signature. Yeah, that is 2 tests per round. You cannot fail, basically. Or can fail very much if you're playing Stella. Alright, I don't think... Okay, so I said I wasn't going to order within the thing, but I'm going to make an exception. Stella goes to the front, next to Daisy. They're girlfriends, so don't worry about it. Have I written fanfiction for Arkham before? Yes. Have I written /fiction? No, not yet. I find it boring, same spells as all the others, and just skipping the only exciting part of the game. That is entirely valid, but also if you want to win the game, Jacqueline's very good at that. Okay, Stella. Moving on to Stella. This is the investigator that I personally, I do have a taboo for her, which is I don't play Drunk Thin. I don't think the current taboo for Drunk Thin is heavy enough to stop me from breaking every campaign wide open with Stella. So I just don't play the card because I don't find it that interesting. But Stella is an absolute beast of an investigator. She has an 8/8 health sanity, so she's already like hard to kill even before we get to 3 willpower, 4 agility, which often becomes 4/5 or even 4/6 once we get some survivor assets in play. I think honestly the only downside to Stella is that she's not a good scavenging investigator. I've tried it. Believe me, I've tried it, but it struggled a lot. But Stella actually has more than one deck. I think it's fair to say, I think Stella definitely has more than a single deck, but she is like, her best decks are all look what I found, resourceful, live and learn, rabbit's foot. But you can do fun other stuff with her as well, and I've definitely tried. You also taboo Grizzly Totem take card. Yes, that is also a card. I think I just don't take those cards usually, but yes, that is also a combo that Stella can take that's just like super broken. Carson. I'm gonna put Carson in A tier with like half a nudge to A+ tier, right? Like, we don't have that much nuance, and we don't need that much nuance because we'd be here forever. But Carson is the investigator who most cares about player count, obviously. I've played Carson. I really enjoyed playing Carson way more than I expected. This is definitely one of those hats off for the design team, because Carson really worked. Carson is the kind of investigator that you might like if you enjoy watching playing your entire team rather than just playing a investigator. And as the quarterbacking asshole that I am, that's how I play Arkham, right? I view all of our actions are our actions, and we work together to solve problems. But also, that is usually how Carson wants to play, where I'm taking into account what my other investigators can do and how they might be able to help us with the team. His own stat line is terrible, his signatures aren't great, but that doesn't matter. His ability is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. I'm going to put him in A tier. I haven't played with him enough to really know, and I don't think I'll get a lot of chance to play with him because he does require a certain kind of setup to get going, but once he does, he's really good. Okay, we're nearing the end of this, which is good because my voice is like basically gone. Probably after this, because we've been going for like an hour and a half. Have mercy on me. All right, Vincent. Vincent's fun. Like Carolyn, he gets a very deep deck building. He's actually he can go A tier. He's a reasonable fighter. He's a good clue getter. He's not as good of a clue getter as most of the other seekers. Just because like his card pool really needs him to put some healing cards in, which takes the place of other good cards. But I think Vincent's also a bit more dependent on the group dynamic. I think if you put Vincent and Mark next to each other, they're amazing. But in general, if you have investigators that either are scared of taking a lot of damage or have ways to turn damage into benefit, Vincent gets a lot better. And like who was the other investigator? Like Tommy, if you're playing with Vincent, you want to be pushing more aggressively and using his healing to kind of make up for the tempo. Kai Money Jones. So, I don't know if Hatful Bob is still in the chat. If you are, now's your time to speak up and be horribly, horribly punished for daring to put Kamani so low in your video. Okay, I'm mostly joking, to be clear. I am joking, but I think Kamani is quite solid. 5 XP out of the gate on its own is already like pretty good. I think 5 agility in Rogue is probably... Like, obviously 5 willpower Mystic is like the standby of this is the class that uses the one stat for everything. But in Rogue you can also... Hi, Hatful Bob. In Rogue you can also use agility, especially instead of intellect, a lot. Thieves Kit, but also their signature grappling hook does the same thing for getting clues. The ability is... So I think a lot of people have said that, if you don't have stealth level 3, then Kamani's ability is just bad. And I think there's a little bit more nuance to that. Rogues get a lot of extra actions. Rogues have a lot of ways of playing with that stuff. I also just think that a lot of the time, you don't want to be double evading every enemy, because that is bad. That is not a good use of your time, right? 2 actions on every enemy is a bad way of spending your time. However, they are blessed with also having access to guns, and because of their pardon me, the way the rogue card pool checks out, they can get those guns into play on the world market and then manage them with like skills and stuff to the point that they have a lot of flexibility in dealing with every enemy however they best suit it. They also have good defensive stats, and their offensive stats are basically irrelevant in kind of the same way as they are in Sephina, where you're not using combat and intellect to do the thing, you're using other stats to do the thing, or you're boosting those stats in such a way that the original stat doesn't really matter as much anymore. I think Kamani has earned an S spot for me as well in the fun listing. I've like Stella, when Kamani first came out, I think I played them like a lot in the first 6 months. Too many times. They can do cool illicit-based builds. They can do cool Chuck Fergus builds. They can do just straight up like boost agility to the 9s and then do everything with agility builds. They can do... What can't they do? Like anything a rogue card pool... Like even the straight up gunfighting... You put dirty fighting in there, you're gonna be okay on that, right? Like unloading a 25 automatic after evading an enemy and then evading them again to get the kill. Like that's... Yeah, I love Kamani. I think the main thing for me is that despite not seeming that way, Kamani embodies all the things I love about Rogue in an investigator. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna give Hatful Bob a chance to defend themselves for they put... What did you put Kamani at, Bob? especially power ranking wise. Like fun wise, obviously it's like, whatever. But I think power level wise is kind of interesting. So the question is, are they better at doing anything than the other rogues, especially when comparing them to Winifred? I think. Yeah, I think, as you're looking at them, like Winifred and Kamani are both an S tier for fun, and Winifred is a full tier, like is an A plus, Kamani is an A tier. I think it's fair to say that Winifred is better at Kamani in the specific Winifred deck. And if you're going event-based with Chuck Fergus, Winifred's probably just better. But the downside, quote-unquote, to Winifred is that Winifred requires a whole bunch of skill cards in her deck, or other cards, like to basically make her ability work. You cannot just have a Winifred deck, random deck. You need to build towards it. And I think Kamani gives you a lot more space to play with. You get 5 XP right out of the gate, and you also get... your ability doesn't really need you to add specific cards to your deck, and in fact, you might be better off not worrying about it. And the other thing is just, Kamani having 3 willpower comes up a lot. I think it's one of those underrated things that people don't really realize how much a rogue with 3 willpower just suddenly never has to worry about treacheries again, because you still have a lot of those like treachery mitigation tools that rogues classically have needed, but now you don't have to use them on just your willpower 3 test because you can just pass those. So Yogi Bear says Kamani pre-Hemlock is D, post-Hemlock is A. This is my current rating without the Hemlock Hill cards. I think Kamani is an A tier investigator without Hemlock Veil. I think I agree. Tool access, very limited, basically nothing there for her. But they're so good. They are very flexible, very useful, very utility focused, good at getting clues, good at dealing with enemies, reasonable at dealing with treacheries. What more do you want in an investigator? I guess compression. Yeah. So bring into report. Get a lot of money from Greg and then play into report like a bunch of times, and you have all your clues. I want this answer to be different. I want Amina to be higher. I really do. I don't think it is. I don't think she can be rated higher than what she is right now. I'm gonna put her one lower. I'm gonna put her in C tier on both sides, or C tier. Oh, my poor baby. So the problem is that I think I don't want to speculate too much on the goings ons in FFG. What I think happened is Amina is Maxine's Mystic design. We know this from an interview she had. And I actually think Amina the Investigator is really strong. Because she gets 3 free resources every turn. And that is like a crazy power, right? She is more powerful than Jenny in that way. She's approaching Preston levels of money. The problem is her deck building. And the problem is, I think specifically, the charms that she was released with are poorly balanced. I don't know. I try to be very positive on the channel. I think 2 hours into, or an hour and a half into a tier list video, I can be a little negative. I think, I haven't tried the Onyx Pentacle as much yet, but I think that the Dowsing Rod and the Ceremonial Sickle just aren't where they should be. And I think that is the reason why Amina is bad. Because if Amina had good tools to use, she would be amazing. And I think maybe that's just a case of they had to print these cards now because Maxine was leaving, and they wanted to do her as a send-off, and then they didn't get enough playtesting, or something happened, or maybe they had to nerf at the last minute. Again, I don't want to speculate too much there, but there's an investigator in there that is super broken, but it's just not in this card pool. Now, I will say, we've seen a bunch of charm access investigators showing up, including Monterey Jack literally yesterday, Parallel Monterey. If I had to bet, I would say that they're gonna push charms a lot, especially a couple cycles from now, and Amina might rise from the ashes like a phoenix, right? That ability is amazing, and I've made a before we saw Sin Eater, because I believe Amina was previewed before Sin Eater, I made a whole video about how you can mitigate the Doom without needing Sin Eater. And then Sin Eater came out, and it's just like, oh, you don't have to worry about that as much anymore. Amina's card is one of the most powerful. Like, if she was in Rogue, I think Amina would be like A+ tier. Right? Like, Amina in Rogue would probably be like crazy. Or even in Seeker. Like, right, yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of trailing on. I really like Amina. I think she is a very interesting design. I just think that the support, like, I think that the charms are the problem. I don't think it's Amina. I think Amina's fine. Even her weakness. Ancient Evil's not a problem. Amina's great. But she just isn't there yet. Okay, Daryl. Moving on to Daryl. How would you like to not interact with the game's difficulty? Because let's just make the difficulty hold test 0. Daryl is... he's fun. He's fine. He's interesting. He's a very good scavenging user. He's a little overpowered. A little lot overpowered, I would say. He's maybe up there for like most powered investigator next to Amanda. They did taboo Shadowlight. I guess that is one thing they did do, which makes his ability to get insane amount of clues a little bit less insane. But he does have a very strong deck building. He has great ability. Which is tons of utility because it also works on like encounter card and stuff. He has his own archetype with difficulty 0. He can also do clue dropping, as you point out. I think it's one of the things that I did, because I did a deep dive on him, and one of the things that I noted is there's a lot of different things he can do. A lot of them overlap pretty well. So I like Daryl doing a few different things and having those things overlap in fun and interesting ways. So Headful Bob brings up Daryl without Empirical Hypothesis. I think Empirical Hypothesis was a mistake. Right? I think I've talked about this before. Lucky Cigarette Case, but without the slot limit, without taking up a slot. And then it goes up from there, drawing multiple cards per turn. On Daryl, obviously, you can't get the full access on Hypothesis. It's a little harder. But it's still like, yeah, that card is just like way too strong for what they like balance it. I'm of the opinion that they should taboo it by switching the spend 3 clues to get a spend 3 evidence to get a clue, and the spend 1 evidence to get a card draw. Those should switch places. So you spend 3 XP to get the card draw option, and then you have the get a clue option for free, but you have to spend 3 evidence on that. I think that would actually make the card a lot more interesting, a lot more fun. That doesn't really like matter for Daryl as much, but either way, Daryl's just very strong. Charlie. I feel like as the person who organized Many Faces of Charlie Kane, gotta be S tier, right? Mentioning the codec, I didn't even realize, but Fine Tuning, my other preview card for Hemlock Vale, that goes on the codec. So now you can just get 2 evidence per turn. That's crazy. Charlie is inconsistent. He requires a lot of setup. He requires a lot of economy. He requires card draw. But when he gets that, he's actually really strong. Where a fully set up Charlie deck can do a lot of things. It's kind of similar to Lola, but he has a little bit more... he's got less of a drawback and more of a focus. I really like Charlie's design. I think they nailed that. That's the thing. I think Charlie is a fantastic point of design. His different decks, like you can do so many different things with Charlie. I think now that they corrected his weakness, he's in a better place balance-wise, because it used to be that his weakness was just like basically a do-nothing. Now it is a much more meaningful weakness. People are talking about Charlie, and yeah, you're right. He goes A tier. Charlie's really good. I think Charlie's biggest... Like, the thing is that Charlie has a lot of things he's bad at, but he can get past all those things thanks to his amazing deck building. right? So the one thing that you're saying here, Valentino, I think it's Valentino, right? Is that he has amazing compression. Valentin, sorry, no O on there. I don't think Charlie has good compression. I think that's the one thing that I actually think that Charlie like really can struggle with is compression. He has great skill value, and he has to manage his economy well. But when he does, he's great. But yeah, getting that compression in there is very important. He's also just like a great tank. I kind of appreciate that always. Gloria Goldberg. I just finished a Scarlet Keys campaign with Gloria, and I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed playing a Gloria deck that wasn't just doing the Mystic thing, but instead was just doing a... I'm going to put her A tier. I'm going to put her A tier, and I'm going to move Amanda to A plus tier. Screw it. I'm also going to put Sefna in A plus tier. Why is Sefna in an A tier? Sefna should be in A plus tier. Yeah, Bad Mulligan is a bad time. No Ever Vigilance or Motivational Speech. That's the other one that like really helps him. Like he has good Guardian cards for sure. Sorry, we're moving on to Gloria. Gloria is a great way to play the game without the encounter deck doing anything to you, which is not what most of us came to play the game for. The fact that she also has 4 intellect and 5 willpower is a bit much. But I get like Carson kind of. She has that like big team energy, especially in bigger teams, because you cannot guarantee that you're not going to draw an encounter card in multiplayer. Like in solo, you can look at 2 with Alyssa, ditch 1, and then just draw the card that you want every turn. In multiplayer, you can't do that. You're gonna draw the other cards as well. But so it becomes much more a game of like who is going to be best equipped to deal with this card. But as we've all seen when we played First Watch, that is still an amazing ability. And I think I don't buy into the idea that FFG is scared of printing her. I just think that they have had different reasons for printing different mystics. Notably, Dexter was also a book investigator. Then we got, it was Innsmouth. Then we got Edge of the Earth, which obviously her deck building doesn't work for that. And then we got Scarlet Keys, and it was like, obviously, Amina is the send-off for Maxine. And then the next one is Kohaku, which is a Blast Curse investigator, Blast Curse expansion. I expect that Gloria will definitely be coming. I wouldn't be surprised if they debut her upon release. Like Necronomicon, and I actually think they have a pretty straightforward, which is just remove the discard option from her ability. Just make it so you can only like reorder the cards or put them underneath her, because putting them underneath her has a real cost. Discarding them doesn't. But yeah, I think Gloria is in a place where right now she's S tier, but S tier and like not so healthy with the game. But she's like one taboo away from probably being a pretty nice investigator. All right, am I going to do the parallels? Or do I just call it here? Or crippling weakness. Well, we know that her weakness is going to be... Well, that doesn't really help because you can always play with, like, the replacement signatures. Also, her signature is Alyssa Graham. Her real signature is Alyssa Graham. Like, I have played... what's her name? Not Albert Bush. I have played her book signature, but it's, like, not that important for her. Beryl Rowland, who likes playing Netrunner and likes directives? You know what? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go through this, but I'm gonna go through them kind of fast because I think there's way too much discussion to be had here, and I don't have the time for all of it. I really like what they did with Roland's directives. I think it is a cool homage to a cool Netrunner character, while also just being a cool, interesting investigator if you've never heard of that card before. Ruth West something, yeah. Yeah, you need ally slots for Alyssa, that's the problem. Roland is... Parallel Roland, directives are interesting. Actually, he should just be B tier. He's like about as good as the original Roland. He's more interesting, at least, deck building wise. Parallel Daisy. So Parallel Daisy's front is awful. Parallel Daisy's back is what got geared up to boot. I'm not sorry. But like I can't split them into the 4 different investigators that I should probably be splitting them with. I'm going to put her B tier. Like her front ability is just like she doesn't really have an ability. It's just not that great. Sure. Skids. Yes, Skids. They saved Skids. Skids is Parallel Skids is some of the most fun you can have. A plus tier here. Is some of the most fun you can have gambling in this game. A plus theming and mechanics merging. Fantastic use of a bunch of different things. Great comeback story. Love Parallel Skids. Haven't played them in a bit. Should probably do that again. The Blood Mage. Agnes Baker Blood Mage is super interesting. It made mystic events, really like a thing. People were interested in trying. She has crazy amounts of reusability. Her draw on her relic is so good. Yeah, she's just great. Like I actually think she should be S tier. I mean, one of the things with Carol Agnes, I think, is that you really want to be sitting next to somebody who can heal you a bit. Even if that, like, obviously Vincent, but even if it's just a Guardian who has like a little bit of damage healing effect, you go so explosively fast. Parallel Wendy, you're going in an A tier. Actually, they're not, because I've played next to you. You're going A minus tier. Part of me wants that wish that they did something else with Wendy, because we've now seen a bunch of Blessed Curse coming back in Hemlock Vale, and I think that, which by the way, I totally called it. I told you all that the expansion after Scarlet Keys would have the Blessed Curse stuff. And I think that, I don't know, Wendy is a weird investigator to put these abilities in, but she's also, like, I've seen her played. She's fun. Zoe, not played her yet. Yeah, so I'm going to put Zoe and Parallel Esken in here, because I have not touched them yet, just to be fair. And then we have the last but not least, Parallel Jim. I think I've said my piece about Jim's Spirit deck. I would have preferred them to do a different... Like, I think they were so terrified of Jim being considered boring again that they really wanted to, like, give him everything. And I don't think they needed to. But I also think that, like, it ended up with a pretty potent package of an investigator. The ability to recharge makes him kind of on par with Akechi. And then his Spirit deck has a remarkable amount of tempo. I didn't realize how little of a drawback that Spirit deck was until I actually played it. I was afraid that, like, oh, so you're getting all this extra damage and horror. But no, in reality, you barely ever actually take damage horror. And in fact, if you draw skulls, I think you heal horror. So, like, yeah, he's really good. Blue HG is currently playing him through Carcosa, and he's just like drawing 5 cards on the regular out of that Spirit deck in like 2 turns when he flips like Lab Assistant and Jeremiah Kirby, and then it's just like, oh, here's all these cards that you've drawn in the faction that is historically struggling with card draw. That's pretty good. And also Gregory Gray and Milan for economy. Well, folks, an hour and 15 minutes later, we have 2 filled out tier lists. Is there anything that if I look at them right now that is like, no, that is completely wrong? I think I did my best to keep S tier like distinct investigators, but still. Yeah, okay. Agnes is gonna go down to A plus tier. She's not that broken compared to like Jacqueline, and it's kind of funny. There are no guardians in here. There's one survivor in here who's more of a seeker than a survivor. But yeah, it goes to show you how the game kind of plays out in reality. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this list, I think. Obviously, like, a lot of this is personal preference. Obviously, it is an element of its time, right? Like, I think in a couple of years, I'll look at this list and go, no, these all should go different places. At least I hope so. If Arkham keeps being Arkham, then things will change and people will have fun with it. And I think that's the most important part. It's okay if you don't agree with some of these things, because ultimately it's about your experience and having fun with it. I want to give a last little shout out to Playing Board Games for kind of starting this trend, for Hatsful Bob for encouraging me to do one as well. I had a lot of fun with this. My voice is probably gone, and I've been here for 2 hours, so I see somebody jumping in the chat now. Hi, you're a little on the late side. If you have any questions about my tier list, or questions in general, go ahead and ask them right now. I'll try to stay live for just like a couple more minutes. And if there's nothing else, then I will wish you a great day and see you around. Should have some elevator music in the background for when this happens. Obviously, I'm waiting for chat to catch up now. Oh, sorry. That's the... Save the final tier list. Yeah, okay, sure. Oh, but then you're all gonna get to see what's on my... I'll do that once the stream is gone. Thanks for the stream, it was great fun. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for commenting. This was very fun. Oh, who are you most excited to try out in Hamiltonville first? Well, I mean, I guess the correct answer would be like Alessandra, because I played her already. Or Wilson, because I'm playing him right now. But no, actually, the answer is not Wilson. I've done Wilson. I think he's more fun than some of the recent Guardians, but I still think he struggles from some of the classic Guardian problems. I'm definitely excited for Alessandra. I think she's doing the rogue event thing that Sefna does, but in a different way, which is super cool. But I think the investigator that I'm currently most excited to try out is Hank, because I haven't gotten a chance yet, and his deck building has been previewed. So I'm probably going to do that sometime this week if I have the chance to play some Hank. But I also wouldn't be surprised if I end up not being a huge Hank fan, because he does seem like he's probably more of a fighter. And my excitement for Kohaku has gone down a little bit, but mostly because like he's not the hot new thing anymore. I'm really excited to crack him open once we get the full box and all the Blessed Curse cards, and run through some Blessed Curse decks with him, because I think he has like a lot of very cool things you can do with him. So yeah, definitely high on Kohaku, high on Alessandra, currently very high on Hank, but that's because I haven't tried him yet. I'm also actually, I should say, I'm also kind of excited to try Kate. I've played Kate a bit already. I like what they did with her. I think it's a neat way of, doing a kind of a Daryl thing, but without being super broken. Yeah, really excited. If that's all the questions, then thank you all so much for watching. Like the video, I guess. Is that a call to action I can do? If you made it this far, if you made it 2 hours in, I feel like I can ask you to like and subscribe, right? I try not to do it too much, because I get like this filthy taste in my mouth whenever I do. But also, I have been here for 2 hours. Maybe I'll do something like this again sometime. Hey, thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you until the end.